Hi guys, we're gonna do some practice problems today talking about the volume of cylinders. So I wanted to review a couple things that we've talked about already in previous videos and assignments. So first of all, your radius is half of the diameter. So if a problem like number 3 gives you diameter, you have to split that number in half. So divide by 2. The other thing is pi is approximately 3.14. So I wanted you to just use 3.14 in your calculator rather than pressing pi. So if you have a calculator similar to this one, I don't want you to press pi because a lot of your answers are going to just require you to multiply by 3.14. Also, some of you might not have this calculator. So when you are using, say, the calculator on your laptop, you just have options like divide, multiply, subtract, and add. So this will help you not only to multiply by 3.14 since you don't have pi on the laptop, but also it'll help you with rounding. All right, so let's get started. The volume of a cylinder is first you have to find the area of a circle, which is pi r squared, and then you are going to multiply by your height. All right, so let's start with number 1 here. Here we do have radius, right? So our r is 5. They did not give us diameter, so we have our r, and our height is 8. So our h is 8. So when I go to write down my formula, volume equals pi r squared times height, I now can fill this in. So volume equals pi r squared is 5 squared times 8. So this is how we should be writing out our equations before we get started. Some students are making mistakes by not squaring that 5. Some students are saying, yes, 5 times 5 we know is 25. 25 times 8 is how many? 200, and then you forget to multiply by pi. So we want to make sure that we follow these steps, okay? All right, so 5 times 5, what do we get? Good. So now we have 25 and then times 8. So when we put this into our calculator, we are simply going to type in 25 times 8 times 3.14. And a lot of your worksheets are going to tell you to round to the nearest tenth or hundredth. But in this case, it's a whole number. So our answer is 628. But 628 what? We started with centimeters. And if this were a prism, then we multiplied length times width times height. That's 3 things. But in this case, what we did is we squared this. So that was centimeters squared. And then we multiplied by the height. So that should give us cubic centimeters. So always make sure that you are able to label your volume in cubic units. All right, next example, number 3. Here we have diameter. So we have to split it in half. So our radius is half of 18. What do you get? 9. Good. And our height is our height, which is 7. So now we can plug it into our equation. So volume equals pi times our radius squared times 7. So in your bell ringer today, I just wanted you to be able to count your steps, right? What's the first thing that we have to do? The first thing is we have to figure out what our radius and our height is. The second thing that we need to do is square the radius. If you go multiplying these and then you square it at the end, your answer is going to be too big. You've squared everything. So you only square your radius. So now we have volume equals pi times, what's 9 times 9? Good, 81 times 7. And now we're ready for our calculator. So take out your calculator. Let's multiply 81 times 7 times 3.14. And our answer here, if they asked us to round to the nearest hundredth, we would just leave it how it is. So that would be 1,780.38 or 38 hundredths. And what should we label this? So we started off with meters. We squared this, so that was meters squared, times another meter, we have cubic meters. And that should be our final answer. All right, so moving on. We have another diameter. So again, if you were to go too fast and say, okay, 24 squared times 5 times 3.14, you actually would get the wrong answer, right? Your answer would be too big. So first, let's identify our R, our radius, and our height. So really easy, we know our height is 5. And what is our radius if our diameter is 24? Good. Radius is 12. So now let's write out that whole equation. Our volume equals pi r squared, which is 12 squared, times 5. And you can put parentheses around these or not. You could even put a little dot in between because we know that that means multiply. I just would try not to write the x anymore since we're dealing with variables. All right, so 12 squared. Everybody should know that one by heart. 12 times 12 is 144. Good. Times 5. So again, pull out your calculator or use the one on your computer. And we are going to say 144 times 5 times 3.14. And we would get 2,260.8. And in this case, if they said round to the nearest tenth, we're done. Round to the nearest hundredth, you could add a 0 after that 8. And if they said round to the nearest whole number, what would you get? Good, that would be 2,261 if it was to the nearest whole number. We're going to write it how it is. 2,260.8. And again, we have to label it. We have inches, and when we're talking about volume, we're not talking about squared, we're talking about cubic. All right, so that is number 7. Moving on to number 9. So this one, we start to get a little tricky, right? So I wanted to show you what happens when you know volume. So you know your end result, but you do not know the height or the radius. All right, so let's dive into this one. We know our equation is volume equals pi times r squared times height. And all you're going to do is fill out what you know. So what do we know here? We know the total volume, 615.44 equals, and in this case, we got lucky. It gave us radius. So we don't have to divide it by 2. That is our radius. So that is 7. And then our height, we don't know our height. So just write an h. That's what we're going to figure out. And remember, from our 1, 2-step, and multi-step equations, you have to get it down to where you can solve for h. So right now, pi and 7 squared are in our way. So we're going to make sure that we get to the end here so that we can solve for height, but also remembering that the opposite of multiplication is division. Good. And then the opposite of squaring something is to take what? Good, the square root of something. And that's what's going to end up happening here in the end. So that's why when your worksheet tells you to use 3.14 for pi instead of using the whole decimal of pi, you want to make sure you read those directions carefully because that's what's going to help you here. All right, so we have 615.44 equals all of this. So we can solve for 7 squared. What is 7 squared? Good. So 7 squared is 49, and then times h. So we could say all three of these are being multiplied by each other. So what is the opposite of multiplication? Division, good. So let's divide by what we want to get rid of. And that would be 49 and pi. So I'm going to write it the other way down here. So I want to get rid of that so that I can cross that out. But if I do it to one side, what do I have to do? Good, I have to do it to the other side. So 49 pi. Okay, so now we would have h, right? H is all of this. So h equals 615.44 divided by 49 times pi. So let's do that. So first we want 49 times 3.14, right? That is 153.86. So we're going to write 615.44 divided by 153.86. Okay, so let's plug it in. And again, it's said to treat pi like 3.14 and already round it. That's why we did that bottom portion first, so that we make sure that we divide 615.44 by both 49 and pi. So 615.44 divided by 153.86. Our answer is 4, ladies and gentlemen. So what is 4? 4 is our height. All right, so we can plug it in right here. 4 is our height. So in this worksheet, a lot of your answers are already labeled centimeters or cubic centimeters or cubic inches. So you don't have to write that in your answer. You just have to write in the number. So in this case, we're finding height, not volume. So your height is not cubic centimeters. It's just centimeters. So your answer is 4. That's all you would have to type in, because the question on your worksheet is going to give you the line and then centimeters. So just type in a 4. All right, I hope that makes sense. So we just did 4 practice problems. You're going to use these problems to answer the worksheet. The worksheet only has 10 questions. So if I did 4 of them with you, you only have to do 6 today. All right, I will be available for you later if you have any questions at all. Make sure that you get on there, and then please double check our site's website, because I've done a few practice videos on helping you with Khan Academy and how to log on and see those assignments. All right. Thank you guys. Have a good night.